When you think of Sword Art Online, the Marvel movies may not come to mind, but there's actually a connection with Ordinal Scale. You got to see AG showing off his power suit and kicking some ass. Part of this was due to the help from his upgraded Agma, which allowed him to see the prediction movement of someone in real time. Totally unfair. The inspiration from this came from the man himself, Tony Stark and his Iron Man toys. Specifically, this was referencing the prediction lines he saw in Captain America Civil War. Tony had to rely on this after getting an ass whipping by Captain America. You could bet that the guys over there at the A1 studio must be on Team Iron Man. Another surprise reference in SAO Ordinal Scale is actually to Digimon Adventure. The scene I'm talking about happens towards the end when Kirito has gone into full god mode with his new overpowered sword. This scene is supposed to parallel Omnimon from the R War game movie. Omnimon goes ahead and unleashes its Omni sword. It obliterates a ton of Diaboromon clones. It's pretty easy to see the parallel as Kirito one-shotting those floor raid bosses. One of the biggest changes with SAO Ordinal Scale was a sudden shift from virtual reality into augmented reality. It almost felt like taking a step backwards. There was this question during production about whether the audience would be able to fully connect with AR. The author Reki mentioned how he was so glad that Pokemon Go had just exploded in popularity before the release of Ordinal Scale. This turned out to be a blessing because practically everyone was able to relate instantly. There was even a familiar scene of people meeting up at parks. This may remind you of early Pokemon Go gatherings. Another key component to AR was the switch from the Atmosphere over to the new Augma device. The director mentioned how they even got someone from Sony to help design it. They hoped that the design of it would be small enough to take with you without a second thought. It was also now supposed to look super futuristic. It actually makes for an interesting look for an early version of the Neurolinker from Excel World. You were lucky enough to get a steamy bath scene from Asuna in the latest SAO movie, but before the movie was officially released on Blu-ray, there was a little bit of an uproar online. The director mentioned in an interview about a possible upgraded bath scene for the Blu-ray release. You will be able to see a fully natural, not safe for work Asuna in the home version. Some question whether this was just a tease to get people to buy the movie. Fast forward some time later, the Blu-ray is out. It turns out that you can see a little something extra in the Blu-ray's so-called upgraded scene. If you're interested, I'm sure you can find this online, or just buy the movie. It goes by so quickly. Honestly, if I didn't mention it here, you may not have noticed. Something else may have caught your attention. The SAO author Reki wanted to go with an AR diva for this SAO movie. This led to the birth of the character Yuna. Yuna actually had several designs before the final one was chosen. One of the early ones is the one you see on screen, but they also mentioned of a more complex version before the final one was chosen. The character Yuna was given life to by the voice actress Sayaka Kanda. Sayaka normally doesn't do anime work, and in fact, Yuna is one of her first major roles, but you definitely know one of her Disney works, and that is Anna from Frozen. This was definitely a great pick for a character that had to sing. As for Eiji, he's voiced by Yoshio Inoue. Yoshio is similar to Yuna's voice actress. This really is his only anime role ever. He's mainly a Japanese actor. One interesting thing about Eiji is that he originally did not exist. I'm talking about the first draft of the Ordinal Scale movie. It didn't have Eiji at all. The director Ito thought that there wasn't much of an antagonist in the story for the SAO cast to fight. This eventually led to the creation of Eiji by Reki. Japan sure loves their anime-themed cafes, and SAO is no exception. During the release of the movie in theaters up until the Blu-ray release, there's been quite a few SAO Ordinal Scale themed cafes in Japan. One of the early ones offered food from scenes in the movie, such as that pasta that Kirito was making when he was talking to Asuna. It even includes an Asuna sandwich complete with her face on it. I got a chance to try this out, and the sandwich was definitely the best part. I only felt a little bad munching on Asuna. There was also a special Yuna plate. This included a special mascot as a yummy burger. The best one out of all of these had to be this dessert. It recreated the scene where Yui appeared with Letha at the very end. It came complete with 2 scoops of melon ice cream. Unfortunately for me, I didn't get to try this one out. SAO Ordinal Scale was truly a spectacle for any fan of the SAO series. It included the all-star cast, featuring pretty much everyone that appeared throughout the series. Even Klein and Nigio ended up getting a good chunk of screen time. Unfortunately, one character was not so fortunate. With such a giant cast, someone was going to take a hit. It ended up being Kirito's beloved sister, Suguha, aka Letha. As soon as you saw Letha leaving for boot camp, you instantly knew she had been the one chosen to be the one cut out. There actually has been an official reason for this, and just to be fair, it might have been said jokingly, but it was mentioned that Letha got left out of this adventure because she would pretty much kick everyone's ass in Augmented Reality. You know that Letha excels in her physical abilities in the real world, so she would have ended kicking Eiji's ass. I do wonder about that. Would that have still been the case when you factor in Eiji's enhancement suit? It is also interesting to notice that Suguha was featured a lot in the early advertising campaign. Perhaps this was around the time before Eiji's character came into existence. SAO Ordinal Scale took place in Tokyo, so you got a chance to see a lot of real-world locations. You may have even noticed some of the brands in the movie like Sony or Lawson. Lawson, by the way, is a popular convenience store in Japan, similar to 7-Eleven. They're everywhere. But did you know, a couple of the items from the movie were actually turned into real products. Two of these included the red headphones you saw Asuna wearing near the start. You later saw Kirito wearing some white grayish version. It turns out that Sony actually released this alongside with the movie release. They were a very limited item, so unsurprisingly they sold out super quickly. You may have also noticed that the ring that Kirito gave Asuna looks a lot like Yui's crystal from the old SAO. It turns out that even this ring was made into a reality. A very limited quantity were made, but you were able to purchase Asuna's ring when Ordinal Scale got released. There was a complete gold one and a gold plated version. I actually have a friend that managed to get her hands on a set. Definitely super lucky. Ordinal Scale introduced to you 3 characters who forever had their lives changed by this death game. The movie gave you glimpses of Yuna's story from her father and Eiji's flashback, but what exactly was the full story? The details about them were released in a side story, Hopeful Chant. 1 year after the death game had begun, Adia was part of the KOB guild. He was a fairly new member that hadn't yet fought a floor raid boss with the guild. Unfortunately for him, during the fight with the mid-boss, it was revealed that Adia had a certain condition. The movie makes it seem like he was afraid, or perhaps a coward, and maybe he was, but there was more to it. Adia actually suffered from a condition that was a flaw in the nerve gear connection to the user's brain. In extreme cases, this affected the user's ability to dive into SAO. For Adia, this simply boiled down to his instincts being in conflict with his reasoning. The conflict and commands being sent simultaneously ultimately prevented his character from moving at all. Unfortunately, he was unable to overcome this issue to help him or Yuna. Now for Yuna's story. Unlike Asuna, Yuna herself was not much of a fighter within SAO. Before SAO started, Yuna and Adia had been childhood friends. Adia always had a crush on Yuna. He thought that he'd be able to confess to her within the virtual world. This was why he invited Yuna to play SAO. After getting trapped inside, Adia promised that he would do anything to protect her. Fast forward some time later within SAO, Yuna stayed back on the lower floors, and for some time she had been living with Adia. She eventually lived solo when Adia joined the KOB guild. The unique thing to notice about Yuna was her love of singing. This eventually blossomed into what was known as an extra skill. Yuna's singing gave anyone who listened to it a special defense buff, perhaps the first of its kind. One day, while Yuna and Adia were in town, a player ran towards him asking for some help. Apparently, his friends got locked up by one of the area traps. Even though Yuna was not a fighter, she quickly jumped in to help. Of course, Adia followed. While they were trying to rescue the group, they themselves got captured in the prison trap. The inexperienced Adia and the group found themselves fighting endlessly. There were unlimited minions flooding inside the cage, and on top of that, there was a field boss that they needed to take care of too. Everything was going well up until the point where the boss's HP reached red. It then suddenly launched a wide attack that paralyzed everyone except Yuna. Yuna tried her best to help out. She ran away in hopes of luring all the monsters towards her, away from the group. As Yuna was running away, she started singing to give everyone a buff. And from this moment, every SAO player would remember this moment, because here, they found out that casting a buff immediately turns every monster to target you. Adia tried to jump in and save her, but his condition suddenly kicked in. It was then that Adia had a front row to his worst nightmare. He saw Yuna shatter into 1,000 digital fragments. SAO Ordinal Scale did an excellent job building on everything the series had set up before it. Of course, the cherry on top for all of this was that final boss fight. Oh, you thought the main course was over? Here's another serving. This raid battle took place at the Ruby Palace. It showed Kirito and friends struggling versus the final boss, an incarnation of the Radius. This, by the way, is shortened to Aincrad. The final boss was freaking Aincrad itself. This is also why SAO was programmed to destroy itself once it got defeated. To escape the death game, you literally had to kill the Aincrad system. Unfortunately, this also meant farewell to the revived white Yuna. But get this, you may have noticed Yuna's little mascot. Do you notice anything weird? Yuna had been revived through the Aincrad system, hence she was always carrying this small version of the final boss. They call this Ainchan. With the destruction of Aincrad, everything was reset, including the new Yuna. But back to the super ultimate final boss. Could you really imagine anyone beating this thing? I mean, how the hell were the trap players supposed to kill it? Did anyone really stand a chance? And it seems like Kayaba didn't think so either. The incarnation of the Radius was a true boss created by the Argus company. If we recall back to SAO Season 1, Kayaba had revealed that he would replace the final boss with himself. Back when Kayaba was making some changes to SAO, he took one look at this behemoth boss. Then he said, like hell anyone could beat this thing. So even for him, it was way too much. It is true that Asuna, Kirito, and everyone else were able to kill it, but it did require players to use magic, guns, flight. They were pretty much cheating, or at the very least that final boss got a handicap. Now, try to imagine a true raid fight against this beast with all the old limitations. It would have easily cost most of the raiders their lives. Perhaps Kayaba had been a little bit merciful by switching the boss out with himself. Or who knows, maybe after defeating this thing, Kayaba would have been the extra boss. But what do you think? Just something to wonder about. Hey, thank you for watching and a huge thank you for helping me reach 1,000 subscribers. Pretty awesome. So I have two big announcements. I have now officially opened a Patreon. I've had a lot of people ask me about this for a while, and now it's finally up. If you enjoyed the videos I put out, definitely check that out, especially if you want to get more involved in future videos. Help me take this channel to the next level. And either way, thank you for the continued support. Second thing, the Crunchyroll giveaway is back. Today's question of the day: who is your favorite SAO character? Did they get a badass scene in the Ordinal Scale movie? Just subscribe and comment down below to join the giveaway, and I'll see you guys later.